I don't care.
Okay, good. All right.
All right, what's up, everyone? There's no one watching yet. We'll wait a few minutes here to see if anyone hops on the live stream. Then I will get it onto my computer as well. That way, if there's any of your guys' questions, I can answer some questions.
Quick shout out to Martine McFarlane. Just wanted to say what's up, buddy. Love you.
All right, live stream.
Crypto Dragon, you too.
Crypto Dragon.
We're besties now.
Is Crypto Dragon a scam artist? Yes or no? We love him
We
anyway.
answer that now.
What's up, Rachel? Yeah.
What's up, Rachel?
Wow, what is that? Is that your hot water heater?
No, it's a garage.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, Rachel, rumor has it she met with Dr. Wilson, the man, the myth, the legend.
It's not a rumor anymore.
He's not just a picture. He's not just a little tiny picture on this website from 20 years ago. Oh, man. Let's see here. How do I get on the... Well, at least Rachel's watching us.
We got one. If you can just touch one heart, Luke, then you're doing good.
I think I need to go... Okay, here we go. Oh, here we go, chat.
There we go.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. Alright, so I have the chat open for some questions later. How many people do we have watching?
Still Rachel. She's our one commenter.
Never said you can touch my heart. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
No, I don't think so. I know I said something about if you can touch one person. If there's one person watching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, my coffee that I'm drinking at too late of an hour, but it's okay. It's okay. Just don't tell anyone. All right, so we're here with Clark.
What's up, man?
Clark's been it's not really my client anymore because he's moved on.
Graduated.
He's graduated to practitioner status. So, but you're my. Oh shit! We're knocking over stuff here.
Grab it.
Technical difficulties.
You got it.
Nice. That's your dad's guitar face.
Yeah. Maybe show that for YouTube.
Yeah, let's
show that to YouTube.
Clark's dad's O face, except with that's the solo face.
It's so funny.
That's just the musical orgasm.
Exactly.
Let's show them. Let's show them Clark's as well.
This isn't fair. You're not supposed to show one.
We got Clark's.
That one's pretty good, though.
That was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's like 70s kind of.
Exactly.
I want to say Elvis Costello for some reason.
Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly
for sure.
Buddy Holly. That powerful hair. But so going back to with Clark, he was my client. It was about 5 years ago, wasn't it? 4 or 5?
I think 4. I started with Nutritional Balancing in late 2012.
Late 2012.
And then 2014, I think, is when I switched.
Yeah, because you had another practitioner.
Yeah.
First.
Pam.
Right. Pam.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Clark's. I was helping Clark heal for about 4 years. Been through a lot together. There's been a couple times where Clark called me on the phone having panic attacks at a later night. I remember that hanging out with my ex-girlfriend at her house, and Clark rings me up. But that's what we're here for. You know, sometimes I think clients make the mistake of they don't want to bother the practitioner. You know, most practitioners, like me and Lewis, we've kind of set our lives up so we can be of service to you guys. And we're usually available. Like, I'm usually available. I don't always pick up my phone right away, but I listen to the voicemail, within an hour, and I'll call a client back if it's a big thing. You know what I mean? And so, I think people can make that mistake of not wanting to, get in contact with their practitioners because they're afraid to waste their time. But it's not a waste of time. You know, it is our job, and we've kind of set up our lives for that. So the first couple of years with Pam, you want to talk about that? So talk about the first 2 years, and then how you discovered Nutritional Balancing Science.
Yeah, so the first 2 years with Pam, she's like very Weston A. Price sort of based. So, however my oxidation rate would like flip, she would keep me on a high fat diet.
Right.
And she wasn't really big on the cooked vegetables either.
So it was more close like paleo.
Exactly, more
Right.
paleo. And at the time, I think the first year, Pam was on Dr. Wilson's list
Right.
of certified practitioners, but he kicked her off because she was
Doing paleo.
doing paleo. Yeah.
Right.
And when you're in slow oxidation, you really shouldn't be on a high fat diet.
Right.
So the first 2 years I was with Pam, pretty quickly, like I was eliminating stuff. I would say like the first or the second test, I was eliminating a bunch of calcium, like right away.
Right.
And then calcium, I think, and then nickel was another big one for me.
Right.
That I eliminated pretty quickly, and lead as well. I think lead's been consistent like through every single test that I've had.
Right.
But yeah, the first 2 years were pretty difficult because I had just come off of prescription drugs like 3 months before I found nutritional balancing. So, the first couple of years were pretty difficult. But Pam was pretty good. I would say for the most part, like, my sleep was really, really bad at that time. And I was still dealing with like the after effects of coming off of SSRIs and benzos.
Okay.
So that was interesting. Like the way that it goes back, the way I found nutritional balancing was I was at a place to come off of the prescription drugs, and there was a girl there who
Is it like a rehab place?
yeah, exactly. It's called the Health Recovery Center. It's
Right.
like an orthomolecular
Right.
place where they give you mega doses of vitamins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they would give you like mega doses of IV vitamin C, glutathione, magnesium, zinc, and they did a bunch of like holistic tests like blood sugar tests, histamine tests, pyroluria,
Right.
a bunch of those tests, and they sort of would they kind of their whole approach was mega doses of vitamins and nutrients, and it was kind of a hodgepodge of just like, okay, you have this allergy to that. You've got high histamine, we're going to give you something for that. You've got pyroluria, we're going to give you like B6 and zinc for that. So it was kind of random. And coming off like the drugs at that place was pretty difficult.
Yeah, but I would say that's not a perfect approach, but that's a better approach than what most doctors.
Right.
Right. I mean, yeah, they are just shotgunning nutrients into you,
Yeah.
but it's still a holistic approach, right? They're helping you get off the drugs.
Totally.
And they're they're still shooting nutrients into you. It's not like as targeted as nutritional balancing, but it helps people get off drugs, and it's definitely a step in the right direction. Kind of like paleo.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like paleo is definitely a huge step in the right direction for most people, right? Because you're cutting out wheat in most paleo diets. You're cutting out most processed foods, most processed sugars. You're eating more organic meats. You're usually eating simpler meals. In paleo, most paleo diets, they also include vegetables. But it's definitely a step in the right direction. You know what I mean? And I think that's the same thing with the orthomolecular.
Definitely. Yeah. So like, I had been like reading pretty voraciously for like 4 or 5 years up to that point because I was on drugs from like 22 to 28, and I came off them at 28. So like the first year or so, I was on them for like anxiety and panic attacks. And
so how long ago were you on those before you started the program?
So 22 is when I got on the drugs. I started to have panic attacks when I was 21 and pretty bad anxiety.
What do you think triggered the panic attacks when you were 21?
Probably just burning the candle at both ends really badly.
Like partying and just
lots
bad
of bad habits, bad lifestyle. Like I remember the day that I was triggered for the first one. Like I had been out the night before drinking till like 5 in the morning, and then I had to work at 10 in the morning.
Right.
And so I went to work completely hungover, and by 4 p.m. I was like, oh my god, I was like in a daze and didn't really feel well. And I remember going up to this guy's door. I was delivering pizza at the time, and I thought I was having a heart attack because I went to get up out of my car and I thought I was going to pass out. So I think my body just shot all this adrenaline through me, and I didn't really know what it was.
Right.
So I was just like, oh my God, you know, I'm dying, I'm having a panic attack. And I think a lot of what Lewis talks about with like depersonalization and derealization like kicked in. I didn't really feel like any of it was really happening.
Right.
It was completely like an out of body experience kind of. So yeah, that started to happen when I was 21. And I didn't really have, I didn't really have a lot of complaints before that. I would say like growing up and stuff, I was fairly healthy, relatively speaking. I did well in school, got really good grades, played sports, had a good social life, all that stuff. But then like college and stuff was the trigger. I was sort of aimless in my purpose. I didn't really have a purpose in college, and just basically fell into partying and stuff a lot. So that went from like 18 to 21, and then I had those panic attacks, and then I went through the medical system. I went to the ER a bunch of different times because you have no idea what's going on, and you're just like.
So the panic attacks were a recurring thing after that?
Yeah.
And you're going to the ER multiple times?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were recurring because basically I felt like I got into this positive feedback loop where no one could tell me what was going on and what to do to stop it. So I started to freak out more.
Right.
And that sort of like avalanche, that momentum just like carried over, and it didn't stop. So for like 6 months to a year, I was back into the ER a bunch of different times. I went to my primary care doc a bunch of times too and was like, just diagnose me with something.
Right.
Because I would rather have a diagnosis at this point than not knowing what the hell's going on.
Right.
And just, give me something. And, they finally said, well, we think you have anxiety. And I was like,
well, obviously.
I was like, okay, I don't care at this point. Like, whatever's going to help me sleep, So at that point, they put me on an antidepressant. I believe they tried a bunch of different ones.
Right.
And then a benzodiazepine as well. And so then I was on those for about 6 years.
So how is the benzo different than the antidepressant?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of the benzo?
Yeah, the benzo is an anti-anxiety and works on the GABA system.
Okay.
So the GABA in your brain and in your body is the main calming neurotransmitter, and it balances with glutamate. And all the anxiolytics or the anti-anxiety drugs like the lorazepam, Ativan, Xanax, all of those are a part of that class of drugs.
Right. And
they just are basically to help. They're really for acute situations where you have really, really bad anxiety and you need it to just stop. So where's my water? So basically, they put me on that. And then the SSRI is more for the serotonin system, which is, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. They've got like 2 different types of antidepressants, or I think a couple different types. There's selective serotonin, selective norepinephrine. I think there may be one other one, but they work on the different neurotransmitters in the brain. And the theory is that with like anxious sort of depression, the serotonin system is dysregulated in some way.
Right.
And so they give you something to help with serotonin. In like a really sort of super low depression, the idea is that norepinephrine is impacted in some way. And so they give people an SNRI for that. But I was on those 2 drugs. It started when I was 22, and then for about like a year, they actually worked.
Right. Yeah,
for a year. They worked really well. But then, I started to notice that I was just numb emotionally, like completely numb. And I started to notice, like in between doses of the benzo, at least, I would get like these these low dose kind of withdrawals.
Right.
Where the same dose that I was taking for the first year was just not working anymore. And so...
What were your sort of withdrawal symptoms?
Just really high anxiety. Muscle cramps was a big one. I remember that quite a bit. Insomnia was still kind of an issue. I still had social anxiety, and the panic attacks were recurring. So I was like, what is going on? I'm taking medication for this. And then, so I started to look into natural ways because I felt like these things weren't working anymore.
Right.
And it didn't make sense to me that I would just have to up the dose, because was I going to have to up the dose forever?
Right.
You know, it's like, okay, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, yeah, at that point, around like 23-ish, I started to really look around like natural healing and stuff, because there's a whole, you know, world of that stuff out there that has different ideas and theories about how to heal people. So, and I was still kind of like perturbed that no one could really tell me what happened those first couple times. Like, no one had really explained to me what a panic attack was or what had happened, and I was still kind of nervous about it recurring. So around that time, I was just really researching. I came across a bunch of different books, obviously the Weston Price books. There's a lady up in San Francisco by the name of Julia Ross. Mm-hmm. She wrote a couple books, Diet Cure and Mood Cure. She's sort of not like orthomolecular, but she focuses on like targeted amino acids to it's sort of like an allopathic approach, but with natural substances.
Right.
Yeah, so I was just researching a bunch of stuff. My one of my ex-girlfriends at the time, her mom was a nurse, and she had read about benzodiazepine withdrawal, and she knew about this thing called the Ashton Manual, which is a manual written by this lady in the UK by the name of Heather Ashton, who she's a PhD, I believe, and she basically just devised a way for people to come off of benzos, and how, you know, in like the physician's desk reference, they say not to prescribe benzos for more than 4 weeks at a time. And I was like,
wow,
oh my God. You know, I was reading, I got into her research and was like, okay, this is not good. And so the idea behind her manual and her, I guess, warning to people is that, you know, you shouldn't be on benzos for more than 4 weeks at a time consecutively. But also, if you're going to come off of them, you have to come off them very slowly, and like the half-life of the drug matters a lot.
Yeah.
So I was on a shorter half-life benzo, I think Ativan at that point. And in order to successfully come off, the theory is that you switch to a longer half-life benzo, like a Klonopin or a Valium, which is the longest half-life. Mm-hmm. But the idea is to switch over and then slowly titrate, slowly. I think they even do like, you know, they'll chop up the pills into like quarters and eighths and stuff, and put it in liquid, and they'll do liquid titration as well. So
titration refers to just the lessening of the dosage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got into that research, and I was a little horrified at that point. I was like, kind of just like, shit, am I going to be able to get off this stuff?
Right.
And so I think my problem at that point was I tried to come off a bunch of different times, but my life was still super busy, and my lifestyle was still pretty bad.
Right.
And I was playing in a bunch of different bands, and that lifestyle was not really like conducive to healing.
Right.
In any kind of way.
Right.
So, you know, I was doing a bunch of stuff, trying to come off of the drugs, and it was pretty unsuccessful. So I just kind of went on for a couple years and just tried to mitigate like the symptoms that I had. That went on for most of like my mid-20s, and then around 27 is when I went to this place, the Health Recovery Center.
Okay.
And actually I discovered this lady, Joan Matthews Larson, through Pam Colleen's book, which is called Addiction, the Hidden Epidemic. And in the back of her book, she's got a like an interviews portion with like Julia Ross and like a bunch of these people who do like holistic addiction and drug abuse and alcohol addiction sorts of rehab for people. And so she had a bunch of interviews, and Joan was in there, but she also had a part about nutritional balancing.
Right.
And balancing zinc and copper. And so I went to HRC when I was 27, and basically the withdrawal was pretty rapid. We did a pretty rapid withdrawal because at that point I had tried the Ashton Manual a bunch of different times. I tried that method and it didn't really work. And there was a medical team there, so I was like pretty okay with, you know, just doing it a little more quickly. Right. And they put me on phenobarbital, which is an anti-seizure drug, which you need to be on if you're going to come off them quickly. But yeah, so finally I just decided to go to this place. It was 7 weeks And yeah, came off them over that 7-week period. We did like 2 or 3 weeks of like rapid titration and then basically just off.
Was it pretty intense 7 weeks?
Oh my god,
yeah,
it was bad.
Yeah, sounds intense.
So like the first couple panic attacks I had were really, really bad, but like
at the center?
No, not at the center.
You mean just in general?
Just in general, and
right.
like I compare it to like the first 6 months of coming off the drugs, specifically the benzos, because the benzos are the worst, really.
Right.
It felt like I was just in one giant panic attack. You know, like there was, my whole theory is that I was really in fast oxidation. I was having these fast oxidizer panic attacks.
Right.
And, you know, the benzos were able to mask the symptoms, but it did nothing to affect the root cause of the fast oxidation.
Right.
You know, which, you know, if you give someone SPF with copper and parathyroid and tons of paramin, you know, that'll just eliminate it completely.
Right.
And I've been, like the only things that have ever really taken me out of a panic attack are the drugs work for sure, but SPF and paramin are like comparable. They do the same exact thing for me. So
as a more natural approach.
Exactly. So yeah, the withdrawal was super bad. But I got through it. I got off them, and then I remember leaving, and I was back in Tucson, and I was on, like, they give you like 50 different pills to take.
Right.
And there's a reason, you know, there's reasoning behind each one, but I was like, I can't be taking hundreds of dollars worth of supplements forever, and it doesn't really make sense to me. So I remember rereading Pam's book and thinking, this nutritional balancing stuff sounds interesting.
Right.
And there was a girl actually at HRC who was helping her boyfriend come off of opiates. And she had been telling me about nutritional balancing. She was like showing me the hair tests. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. But
shout out to that person.
Yeah, right? Pippa Galea, actually.
Pippa Galea, you're the real hero.
I know, right? Yeah, so she had been telling me about hair testing. And I was like, that sounds pretty interesting. Like, she was trying to explain it to the people at HRC, and they didn't really understand it. But I put the two and two together once I got back to Tucson, and I was like, Pam does nutritional balancing, and Pippa was talking about that. So in, I think, December of 2012 is when I called Pam, and I was like, let's do this. You know? Right. And so, yeah, I did my first test in 2012, late 2012, and it was pretty bad. The initial test was pretty bad.
Was it fast oxidation, I imagine?
It was a bowl pattern.
With fast oxidation, or?
I don't think so. I think it was slow.
It was a slow, okay.
It was slow. But the kicker is that I think, you know, I was taking a ton of zinc at the time. So my NADK was super low.
Yeah.
It was like, that's one of the things that I was feeling off when I was taking a ton of zinc. So that's why I was like looking like.
That's an important thing, you guys, is that a lot of people don't realize that. So Clark's here taking a lot of zinc, and most people, just because the way we're taught, it's not well known. You know, taking a lot of zinc is not a big deal, right? But people don't realize that vitamins are powerful, and for a lot of people, if you're taking, I would say more than like 30 milligrams of zinc a day, that could be making you worse. If your sodium to potassium ratio is low, the zinc will actually lower this ratio in your chemistry, and it'll make you feel worse. It'll make you feel more sluggish. It'll make you feel, it'll just make you feel off in general. And a lot of people don't realize that. And that's what a lot of reasons, I would say that's a big reason why people don't get very good results from vitamins.
Right.
Because they're taking the wrong vitamins.
Right.
They're taking in the wrong dosage. It's making them feel worse.
Right.
Because they don't realize that they're powerful. And if you take the wrong vitamins, like the wrong vitamins can make you worse. You know? So it's important to make that distinction, that vitamins aren't just vitamins. You can't just take a bunch of vitamins and then they'll make you better. They have to be targeted. As you experienced with the zinc. I've experienced similar things, so my sodium potassium ratio is off.
Right.
And
you feel it.
Yeah, you can feel it. Yeah, and you're just like, what? You know, and people understand the power of minerals and vitamins. Yeah. And the power goes both ways. The power, you know, can make you sicker or it can make you better. So many people, when they're on the wrong program, the wrong nutritional supplements, they'll get worse. You know, so it's important to realize that, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That was, so my first test was, I was in a pretty deep bowl pattern. I was in a pretty bad calcium magnesium spiritual defensiveness pattern. pretty low sodium potassium ratio, but you know, I mean, it was low, but I was taking a ton of zinc, and I had just gone through a super stressful time. So the first retest, it got worse, but then actually it was pretty good. The third test, I remember.
How did you feel when you first started the program? Did you notice a significant difference, or?
When I first started the program, I was still. It's hard to really parse out because I was still
Right.
going through the withdrawal, the benzo withdrawal.
That far.
Oh yeah. So like.
So during the 6-week thing, they didn't take you completely off of it,
They did, yeah.
but then you had to.
I was completely gone.
But you're just getting detox from it still.
Exactly.
The half-life.
The half-life. So the benzos are uniquely bad because they affect the GABA receptors, and
Right.
the GABA receptors are the main calming neurotransmitter throughout your body.
Right.
There's GABA receptors in your ankles, in the muscles, in your calves.
Right.
There's GABA receptors everywhere. A lot of the what they call post-acute withdrawal can last up to 2 years for people.
2 years, you guys.
Yeah.
It just speaks to how dangerous Western medicine can be.
Oh yeah, I mean it's there's a couple really good books by this guy Robert Whitaker, Mad in America, and then I forget the other one right now. But Robert Whitaker has written a bunch of books on big pharma, and he goes through case studies of people who've been on the drugs and like they're lost forever. You know, like he's gone through and interviewed people who've been off it for like 10 years and they're like agoraphobic and like they can't function, you know, in society. They don't have jobs, they're on disability, stuff like that.
Right, they're similar to a hardcore drug. It's similar to if you you know, if you were to use too much heroin, or you know, I have friends that they did too much acid. They just did like a bunch of acid during a week-long span.
Yeah.
They never came back.
Yeah.
Like they came off the acid, you know what I mean? But you can see it in their eyes. They're never the same.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's shocking that we would put our citizens, you know, doctors would put their clients on prescription drugs. They would do a similar thing to that. Literally fry people's brains.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So
it's evil.
It definitely is. Yeah, so like the post-acute withdrawal, what they call, there's all sorts of euphemisms in the psychiatric like literature,
right?
And in the literature, the scientific literature surrounding, you know, quote unquote, the science of the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the studies are doctored, and Whitaker in one of his books goes through how they manipulate basically statistics, you know, in
and
studies.
It's hard because you have to know how to actually read the studies.
Exactly.
So the same thing happens, you guys, with like vaccinations or something like that. It kind of becomes like the collective acceptance.
Right.
Like all these doctors say it, all my friends accept it as true, all my colleagues accept it as true, therefore it must be true. But in order to learn the truth about, you know, the benzos and the SSRIs and all this stuff, and how they doctor the statistics and stuff, you would literally have to go back to the study. You'd have to be trained to, most people don't know how to look at a study.
Right.
You have to be trained to use the scientific method, how the studies are administered, and then go back and look at it and then find the faults and then find out where they went wrong.
Exactly.
And if you don't know how to do that, how are you going to find the truth?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, so like there are all sorts of examples in his books about how like they'll leave out patients if they die. They'll take them out of certain groups to skew the results. Yeah, there's a lot of different methods that they use, but there are certain scientists who are just paid off to do research, you know, for these people. Same thing with like Big Agro.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical companies just they give the scientists and the doctors money because they want the study to have a certain outcome. You know what I mean? Yep. And you can fool people with studies. Yeah. Yeah, so basically the first, I don't know, it was hard to parse out like the first like year or two. Right. How I was feeling, you know, what it was based on, you know, because was it like post-acute withdrawal? Was it like a healing reaction? Was it this metal coming out? I'd say around like year 3, maybe the first year after I started working with you, I started to just get more of a balance and more of a baseline of like, okay, this is, you know, I'm feeling normal again. Right. I can like work and function. There was like a period of like 6 months after I came off where I wasn't even working. Yeah. So it's like, so then I've been eliminating so much stuff since I've been working with you.
toxic potassium, nickel, lead.
Yeah, with copper,
calcium.
really, toxic potassium has been a big one.
Yeah.
He eliminated tons of toxic potassium for, it was at least 3 years.
Yeah.
At least 3 years. So his sodium potassium ratio was always very low.
Yeah.
So how we know it's toxic potassium is that the NAK ratio in a human being can't be under a certain ratio, right? It can't be that low. Like, I would say generally it's like 0.7 and below. I'm pretty sure they're limiting toxic potassium. If it's like 0.4, I basically know. You know what I mean? Even when it's under 1, I mean, usually it's not going to be under 1 unless the person has like extreme traumas.
Right.
I mean, some people, they can have a less than 1 sodium potassium ratio, but they might have been like, like raped or something, like really bad trauma.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Like gunshot wounds or something.
Right. Like really bad trauma that they're like, that's been hidden.
Right.
You know what I mean? The body's hiding it from them.
Right.
And so toxic potassium is it's a big deal. How did you feel after living the toxic potassium?
Yeah, very different.
Most people usually it's like more grounded.
Exactly, more grounded. I would say, if you're a guy too, especially, like I definitely felt more masculine for sure.
Yeah, it's more masculine. So toxic potassium, you guys, we call that a child mineral. So when a woman is creating a baby, the fluid is very high in potassium, right? And so when children are born, typically they have higher levels of this toxic potassium. And then as the child matures, it will eliminate this toxic potassium. That's actually part of the maturing process of a child. And if a child eliminates it faster, the child will actually mature faster into an adult, right? With more adult thinking. And so one of the most common things when people eliminate this toxic potassium is they feel more like an adult. If it's a man, they're going to feel more masculine. If it's a woman, they're going to feel more like an adult woman. Like more in control of their lives, just making better decisions in general. They're more grounded. They feel more in control of their surroundings, more confidence, I would say, with being around other adults. Not as needy, more confident to take care of themselves. Those are some of the common things.
In the toxic potassium article, there's been so many like little things throughout the years that have happened on the program that Dr. Wilson describes exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
In his articles, and it makes you go like, oh my God, there's no other way this person could know this. Right. The toxic potassium specifically, I was really OCD before, and that's part of the reason why I think I was a musician. And I needed some sort of outlet for, I was always like, oh my God, I need to be doing something. Like I had this tension inside of me.
Yeah, and you can use anything to run away.
Yeah.
And people use music.
Yeah.
I would say musicians are more typically like more coppery sort of people that are running, and music is a very common way to run away from things. Yep. You can use anything. People overeat, people watch too much television, etc., etc. But music's a very common one, and from observing, musicians, you can see that a lot of them are running away. That kind of goes into the whole like musicians are like rebels.
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of thing.
I was talking to Pam like early on, and like I was still playing out and stuff when I was on with her, and I was thinking like things started to make sense for me when I was reading the copper article. Right. And it was like I was just thinking like and telling her like I think most musicians have a serious copper problem.
I would agree, most of them in our society. Yeah.
Just because you're more creative, you're kind of like living on the edge. You're telling society to like, F you. Right. All those sort of qualities.
There's like the lifestyle musicians. Yeah. Usually, I mean, if you're playing for people, you're going to be staying up late. Exactly. You're going to be having drinks after the concert.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, but another thing in the toxic potassium article that Dr. Wilson talks about is, this one like totally blew me away, is like, they'll smile nervously in the camera or for pictures.
Really? I remember that word.
Yeah. There's like specific psychological aspects to toxic potassium. Right. That's one of them. Fussy is another one, but yeah, smiles nervously for pictures, and I always remember like being uncomfortable for taking pictures. Right. And I was like, like what the hell is that? And then I remember reading that, and as I was eliminating it, I was like, what the F? I just became more comfortable. Right. You
notice this in the fruitarian YouTubers.
Yes.
So this is one reason why we don't like fruit, you guys. The fruit is loaded with toxic potassium at this time. Part of it is the fruit itself. Part of it is that they use phosphate fertilizers, and the fruit, more so than vegetables, it tends to convert the phosphates into toxic potassium, right? Whereas the vegetables tend to do a better job of converting to more bioavailable potassium. But you can see it if you go to some of these fruitarian YouTubers.
Yeah.
They're super ungrounded.
Yeah.
They all act like children. They always fight with each other. Have you noticed that? All the fruitarians on YouTube.
They seem really angry too.
Yeah, they're really angry. They squabble with each other over, who's the more fruitarian, or like they have like little they have weird little like conflicts for no apparent reason. And they act, you can see it, they act more like children. They're very arrogant, which is arrogance is a very childlike state of mind.
For sure.
It's like if you ask a 3-year-old, like they're gonna tell you they're the best at running, right?
Exactly.
Because they're a 3-year-old.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But an adult shouldn't tell you that they think they're the best at something. Okay, so they should be like more humble, right?
Yeah.
And so arrogance in most cases is a very childlike sort of behavior.
Yeah. Definitely.
And you can see that in a lot of the fruitarians. And it's just more ungrounded. I've never met a vegan. I've never met a raw vegan or fruitarian that ever like was an entrepreneur.
No.
That could build their own business.
No, never.
Never. That's a big one for me. It's like we need people to run their own business.
Right.
They usually are more towards like certain lifestyles and things.
Oh yeah.
And I've never I've never seen a successful entrepreneur that built their own business from scratch that was like a fruitarian or a raw vegan.
Exactly.
They just don't have the mental ability.
Exactly. And if you think about like Steve Jobs, he was a fruitarian later on in his life.
Right.
He got pancreatic cancer and died, very young. So.
Right.
It's a bad idea.
Right.
It's a really bad idea.
Right.
So.
Right. So yeah, toxic potassium was a big one for Clark.
Huge. Nickel was another one.
Yeah.
That was another one that I noticed. I had specific symptoms of nickel, probably in my early 20s and in my mid 20s, and I didn't know what it was.
Right.
Until I eliminated it and read Dr. Wilson's stuff. I worked at a hospital in my mid 20s. I was in transportation, and then I worked in radiology. But in transportation, I remember pushing this patient to their destination in the hospital, and I got this overwhelming sense of like, I want to kill myself. And I had a lot of these episodes, and I didn't know where they came from, and they were super disturbing. And so, I had to leave work, and I was like crying, and I had my parents come pick me up at work and like, please drive me because, I don't really feel comfortable driving because I think I'm gonna wrap my car around a tree.
Right.
So it's nickel can be super intense, and after I eliminated nickel, those thoughts just went away completely.
Right.
They were intermittent and stuff, but that when they happened, they were very intense. And I haven't had those. You get, I think when you are eliminating nickel, you kind of re-experience those symptoms. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as powerfully, but yeah, that's another one. Nickel has been a big one that I can point to specific symptoms in my life.
Right.
Lead is another one as well.
Right.
I definitely had like a very rageful streak when I was younger. I really think I put it down to, I'd say it sort of cropped up in my mid-20s, but in my mid-20s I lived with an ex-girlfriend who, we lived in a very old house, and we did a project in her bathroom where we chipped off all the old paint, and I didn't wear a mask, and it was lead paint. Mm-hmm. And so I remember after that, like, I just remember going through these episodes.
And how old were you?
Like 24 at that time.
Right. And so you were on also the prescription drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Which probably
slowed the elimination.
Slowed the elimination a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so lead was another one. I remember, where, because when you go through the program, you think about, like, where the hell did I get all this stuff?
Right.
And even, like, coming up I lived in a pretty good house when I was young, really good parents, upper middle class. We didn't have the best diets and stuff, but, like,
right.
The exposure is there for pretty much anybody.
Right.
In almost every standard of living in Western countries.
Right.
So, you think about, like, where did I get this stuff? And then, you may or may not be able to pick up on specific instances like that where you can point to. But as the lead has come out, like my family can attest to, like, I had serious, like, rage episodes with them. Right. And they were, like, afraid.
Right.
And it's not fun having to deal with that. But, as the lead comes out in my last test, you know, there's a ton of lead coming out.
Right. A lot of copper too.
A lot of copper too. You feel different completely. You just feel more calm and grounded, and I don't know, it's nice.
Right. Right. And how did you feel the difference when you transitioned from eliminating potassium to eliminating more copper?
Definitely.
Or you just kind of feel like another deeper stage of like you're like maturing.
The symptoms are a little different for sure. Copper, some of them are vague. You know, you get like bloating, or your mind is racing, or I get this weird like vague symptom of like it feels like I'm getting a buzzing in my stomach.
Right.
When I don't know, you know, like if anyone else has that, but it's just a odd symptom. But yeah, like insomnia is another big one.
Right.
With copper, I would say I've had, you know, I'm more prone to fast oxidation, as you have seen. So insomnia is sort of associated with that. But the copper, it's a different type of, when it comes out, different type of insomnia. You're just buzzed. You know, like it's almost like you had coffee, but you don't feel the physical effects of it. You just have the mental effects of it.
Yeah, and it's important to realize, you guys, that it's layers, right? And Clark did eliminate copper for like, it's been like 5 years. Six years now, you guys.
6 years, I know.
So it took 6 years for Clark to start to eliminate copper because, his body wanted to get rid of the toxic potassium first. And, you know, in my experience, certain layers do get eliminated first. Usually the first layer is aluminum and toxic potassium. I think it's because they're lighter elements. The body just seems to have an easier time eliminating them. And then it'll move to the heavier ones. Copper's a little bit heavier, along with lead. I would say the last one that's the hardest to eliminate would be cadmium.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Cadmium is the most toxic one. It's the heaviest. It's like the most dense, along with like lead. And then, you know, nickel and copper, I would say, are somewhere in the middle. And so many people come to us because they read Dr. Wilson's articles, or they watch our YouTube videos, and we talk all about copper imbalance and copper toxicity. But, you know, it could take 6-7 years before you start to balance your copper. That doesn't mean you're not going to start feeling better, you know, throughout the process like you did, and you're not going to feel more grounded, and you're not going to feel like you're making progress. But I think sometimes people get caught in that mental trap.
Right.
They're trying to balance one specific thing. So like.
Right.
And then they try to overanalyze it. Like, oh, I need to balance my copper. Or I need to get a 4 lows is another common one.
Right. Right.
You know, why have I been stuck in 4 lows so long? Or, you know, is it dangerous that I'm in a step up pattern? Or why am I still in a bull pattern? And those things are certain to an extent.
And I definitely went through all those. You know, you go through.
Yeah, you go through it.
You go through it, and like I think, you know, really the best mentality to have with respect to that is something that Dr. Wilson talks about, which is just focus on the whole test, the test as a whole. Yeah. You know, looking at it like a whole system, because if you focus on just lowering copper or fixing, you know, one level, you know, maybe your calcium's super high, it doesn't work like that, because all the minerals react in response to each other. And
really the most important thing is, are you moving forward?
Right.
And it's the speed at which you're moving forward.
Right.
So, like, when I look at hair tests, I don't even really think of it in terms of ratios between minerals or how much metals does this person have or whatever. I just think about, okay, the person's here. How can we move this person to a healthier state? Right. And if it's a retest, I'm basically thinking of what was their last test? Is this person making progress? And how much progress is this person making? That's literally the basis of most of my analysis when it comes to hair tests. Is how can the person move forward, and are they moving forward if it's a retest? Because that's really all you can do, right? There's nothing special you can really do to eliminate copper or to eliminate potassium. There's no way to target potassium, really, or target the nickel, or target the cadmium or whatever. The body will eliminate whatever it decides to eliminate next.
Right.
And so the only thing you can do is focus on the program and focus on moving the body forward, and then going from there. That's all you can do.
Yeah, just balance the oxidation rate, move energy down, you know, do all the procedures and stuff, and that's pretty much all you can do.
Right.
That's the point of the program. So, you know, I know there's a lot of practitioners who are like splintered off from like Dr. Wilson, they don't agree with what he does, but he's the most systems-based practitioner out there.
Right.
So.
Right. And I think a lot of these not even like necessarily esoteric, but these whole systems concepts help. Like even like the physics.
Yeah.
Like moving forward is kind of like it helps you visualize where you're moving with your life.
Right.
And like I think physics can help you a lot. Like something like yin and yang.
Right.
Like making the body more yang, contracting it, heating it up. Like, are you moving backwards with your life? Or are you moving forward towards greater health, greater happiness, greater wisdom?
Right.
In some cases, people need to take care of their money better, more wealth, etc., etc.
Right.
Are you moving forward? Or are you moving backward? And that's really the most important thing, right? We just want to help you guys move forward with your health and with your spiritual development and all that good stuff. And the test is just a tool to help move you forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think the same is true with the antidepressants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we come up with, scientists, they come up with a lot of fancy words and they come up, they go into your brain, they find all the little receptors, and they give the receptors names, and they give the chemicals names.
Right.
Really, at the base level, you're having a panic attack because there's some amount of trauma in the body, and the body can't it gets to a certain threshold where the body can't handle it, and then it manifests as a panic attack.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then at really a more just like esoteric level, all the antidepressants are doing is they're numbing the consciousness.
Right.
So you don't have to see reality for what it really is. Because if you were to see reality in yourself for what it really was, it would trigger a panic attack because you can't handle all that stimulus. And so what the drugs are doing is they're cutting out stimulus at its base level. That's what they're really doing.
Yeah. Yep. And just completely numbing the symptoms of that discomfort.
Right.
So it's sort of it moves you backward in a way. Because it's like it's removing you one step from where you need to go in the correct direction.
Right, and it's a way to run away from problems.
Yep, exactly.
And many doctors, they don't tell you about the toxicity of these things. They don't tell you it's going to take 3 years to detox yourself of these horrible drugs.
Another really interesting thing about antidepressants, I think specifically, I think this is true though for most of the other drugs. There are trace amounts of toxic metals in the drugs.
Right, that's part of why you're getting the effect that they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I think Prozac, it's called fluoxetine. It's a fluoride-based compound.
There you go, fluoride.
So and it's interesting. I remember at the Health Recovery Center when I was coming off the drugs, my thyroid hormones were very high, which means your thyroid function is very low.
Right.
So those are some of the side effects. Between like insulin dysregulation, it messes up your blood sugar. It can mess with your thyroid hormones. It can mess with your libido as well. Like so many different.
There's no such thing as a drug without side effects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. And it's become so widespread throughout society. I would say it's more common with women. Mm-hmm. Many women that I've met are on antidepressants. And they basically just stay on them for the rest of their life unless they make a conscious decision. And then now, what thing that's happening, you guys, is that all these young women are on antidepressants. The doctors don't tell them they're toxic, and they don't take them off of it, and then they have children. And the children are basically born with a dosage of antidepressants because everything the mother ingests goes through the placental wall to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And the baby will inherit toxic metals, deficiencies, and it'll also absorb some of the prescription drugs that the mother is taking. So we have a generation now of children where their mothers are on antidepressants, and then they give birth to a child, and then the child, that's why we see all these historically high rates of autism, ADD, ADHD. We come up with many different names to sort of describe the dysfunction of the children and why they're so sickly. The children are very sickly. I know this because I can see it on their hair tests. Yeah. Basically, all the children are sick at this time to a certain extent. Some of them worse than others, obviously. Yeah. Even Ivy, Sarah didn't vaccinate Ivy, fed her fairly well. Ivy was still like flat line 4 lows.
Wow.
On her first hair test.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So imagine, if the mother is like Sarah bit on antidepressants and they vaccinated the child or something.
Right.
And so that's why we see
it's cumulative for sure.
Yeah, it's generationally accumulative. And antidepressants, and a lot of people I think aren't conscious. Mm-hmm. If you aren't on them themselves, you're not really conscious how many people are on them.
Right. Yeah.
Like, once I realized how many, especially young women, are on antidepressants, I was kind of shocked.
Isn't it close? I think the numbers are actually close to like 30 or 40%.
Like, yeah, I think it's like 30% of women under the age of 30, or something like that, are on antidepressants.
Yeah.
Because women are a little more shy, I would say, with those sort of things.
For sure.
They're not more likely to tell you, right?
Right.
Unless, most women, they're not going to just blurt out, like, hey, I'm on antidepressants. So you don't know. Right. And then once you work with a lot of women, and then you actually, some of your female friends open up to you more, you realize how many of them are on antidepressants, and they're having children on antidepressants. It's terrifying. I know. It is crazy.
It's true.
It's crazy.
Very true.
So, yeah, but it's great to hear that you've had, the progress that you did.
Definitely.
And, Clark actually recently became a nutritional balancing practitioner.
Yeah. So, just about a month ago.
Yeah, you excited for that?
Took the Larry pill.
Yeah, took the Larry pill, getting certified.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I've got a buddy actually in Fort Collins, where you're going, who's working on my website right now. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, should be started on that. I'm taking an extra day off of work. Every other week, so I'll have an extra day to work, working with clients and stuff. So
right, and you can hear the way Clark talks about the things that he's been on, the antidepressants and all the receptors and stuff you talk about. Yeah. Clark is more well informed about that stuff than most doctors. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is a sad state of things.
Yeah, they get a lot of their information as well just from the drug reps, which is a huge problem.
Right.
Who are selling them drugs.
Right, and I think people in our society, they respect authority in that way too much. It's like doctors are not truth. Mm-hmm. Doctors are human beings that are most often very sick themselves. Right. They're part of a system where if they do not practice in a certain way, their license will be pulled. Right. And so really, they have to answer to the licensing boards. Many of them are getting kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies and the such. And for a lot of doctors, they don't have your best interest at heart. They really don't. Yeah.
And I mean, I remember working at the hospital that I worked at. They're on 48 and 36 hour call. You know what I mean? So they're up for 48 hours,
48 hours straight.
And they do that for however long the residency is, 4 years. That's a recipe for burnout. So imagine having to treat people after that. You're not really going to be able. You can't do anything. You can't do anything that's outside of the box, or you really can't. You're not incentivized to think in a different way.
Yeah, you really have to find a doctor or some sort of healer that is living it.
Exactly. Exactly.
I have a family member who's a doctor, and I was already on the program for 3 or 4 years, you know what I mean? And he was, he was telling me what to eat, and he's morbidly obese.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? Probably 100 pounds or more overweight.
Jesus.
And he's telling me how I need to, change my diet.
What was he saying?
Oh, just, I need to eat more fruit.
Oh, no.
And just, I need to eat, meat's bad for you.
You're like, do you do that diet?
It's why would you take diet advice from a morbidly obese person?
Exactly.
Yeah. So a lot of doctors do not live the healing lifestyle. They do not they don't practice what they preach either. A lot of them are hypocrites. Right. Now I don't want to sit here and sort of bash all doctors. Yeah. Now, there's some good ones. I've met a lot of good doctors. Most of the better ones are more into healing naturally and stuff like that. And the clinic that you found, what do you call it, orthomolecular?
Yeah, it's a health recovery center in Minnesota.
Yeah. Even though I wouldn't say it's as developed as some of the programs we offer, that's a great step in the right direction.
Forward thinking for sure.
And they're helping a lot of people.
Exactly.
And that's true with a lot of modalities. A lot of chiropractors are excellent. I know a lot of chiropractors in my area that they put people on diets and stuff like that. Some of them do the hair tests.
Right.
In my opinion, actually, from what I've seen, chiropractors, especially some of them in the South,
mm-hmm.
where they even have more sort of health freedom,
mm-hmm.
And there's less government in the healing practices. Some of the chiropractor chiropractors are really like the forefront of
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah.
Of like healing naturally.
Yeah.
A lot of them put their clients on like they put all their chiropractic clients on fish oil and like they teach them like how to. Usually it's some variant of paleo.
Right.
As you know, as we've seen, that's the most common one.
Yeah.
Paleo is great, and it's a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, I won't bash paleo either because it's a step in the right direction for the vast majority of people.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say the one guy that I've been really interested in looking at his work lately is Jack Kruse. He's really big into light, basically.
Light therapy.
Exactly. Whether it's the sun or he does use near infrared light. I think he recommends it.
Right.
But there's, his recommendations basically boil down to, go to bed with the sun, wake up with the sun.
Right. Perfect. That's exactly.
Exactly. It's right in line with NB and Larry. But, get out in the sun, get your skin exposed, get your eyes exposed.
Right.
And then stay away from blue light, basically.
Yeah.
Or at least try and balance it as much as you can with the red light.
Right. That's a big thing in our society. We definitely get too much blue light, not enough red light.
Totally, and I'm pretty guilty of it myself. That's probably the next step in my own nutritional balancing journey is disconnecting a little bit from the phone. It is a good tool. It is a really good tool. We're able to do something like this right now.
Right, yeah, on our phone.
And I met Martine McFarlane. Martine McFarlane, what's up, boy? I would have never met so many different people on nutritional balancing if it wasn't for technology.
Right, yeah, it can be difficult to meet people that are on the same path as you. For sure. Alright, want to answer some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's find some questions here. Alright, what kind of questions are you guys asking? They're commenting on you're wearing dark colors.
Oh yeah, I gotta. Hey, we both are.
Yeah. Oh, mine's a little. Mine's gray. So just so you guys know, we do recommend. I'm wearing the white beanie at least, so I got the halo, the white halo going on. We do recommend bright colors. You can actually notice this. If you look at a picture of a person just in white or light blue or a light color, and then look at the same person dressed all in black, it's kind of it's different. You can notice it's a subtle sort of thing in their aura, kind of. And so dark colors absorb and light colors reflect. And so most people have a bad energy in today's world, and just general most people are pretty sick. And so in general, I would recommend it is better to wear light colored clothing and try to avoid the darks.
Yeah, I definitely got to update the wardrobe.
Yeah, Clark's got to update the wardrobe. He's going to start a GoFundMe. Okay.
What do we got?
I wonder if that's why a lot of teens kill themselves impulsively, nickel from braces. Yeah, I would say that's definitely, it contributes. It's part of the overall picture. There is quite a bit of nickel in some of the braces. It seems that they are moving more away from wire braces. Yeah, I've seen more people use Invisalign.
Exactly, the clear ones.
The clear ones, and the resin ones are better.
I mean, yeah, putting mercury in your mouth or nickel in your mouth, it's a bad idea.
It would be nice if we didn't have to dedicate so much of our time, thoughts, and energy to eliminating poisons from our body. What's the point of life? That's I sees you. Yeah, that is true to an extent. But you have to look at it like this. This is the world that we live in. So you were born onto Earth at this time. Most likely you were born to sick parents, and you're born with a sick body. And all the food is more depleted than it should be. And there's a lot of problems with Earth and the bodies. And it's what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? You say you're going to cry? Yeah.
You just got to move forward. I mean, it'll teach you a lot of things as well. Eliminating stuff and going through this process. And it is kind of like an initiation as well.
Right, and you chose it.
Yeah.
You chose to be born on Earth at this time.
Yeah.
And if you're in a depleted body, you chose to be born in that depleted body. Your soul chose it. And so there's no, it's best to avoid the victim thinking. And that's what else are you going to do about it? You're full of poisons that need to be taken out. So you have to take them out, right? Okay. We have to heal ourselves. Rachel Quinn says we have to heal ourselves in order to heal the planet. Yes, that is true. Many people focus too much on outside forces and things they can't control. The world is an extension of yourself, for sure. I see you says my libido is through the roof. I hate it. I want to turn it off. It's really keeping me from moving forward on the program.
Maybe fast oxidation.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a client. I don't think that's a client of mine. It could be. You mean you could be in fast oxidation?
Yeah.
You could be stimulating yourself too much. So many young men struggle with pornography.
Right.
If you're stimulating yourself with pornography and things like that, your mind can be centered too much on that.
Yeah, subtle stimulants like sugar. I mean, maybe that's not so subtle, but things that you don't think of like as a drug stimulant. Sugar, blue light at night, pornography, any kind of like fear porn, like a lot of the news.
Movies.
A lot of the news is that way as well.
Right.
They try to trigger people, into just getting freaked out about nothing.
Yeah, and you think like pornography, like the human brain, the male brain. And the male brain is more designed, to go out and, be a little bit more aggressive with women and things like that. And the male brain was not designed to be able to access any sort of pornographic material it could on the internet at a click of a button.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, and so it's very difficult for the male mind once you see it to sort of turn off. And that can definitely affect you for your libido because you're just thinking about sex too much. You're probably a woman-centered being. Many men struggle with this, is that women becomes their god, basically. So instead of being connected to God and their life being about service to God, their life becomes about pursuit of women. And women are always on their mind, and they become slaves to women. So don't become a slave to women. Become a slave to God. Okay. Yes, this poisoning is intentional. Let's see.
What is an example of blue light? That's a pretty good question. I would say pretty much any screen that you have.
Most screens.
Most screens, TVs, cell phones, computers. I think that I heard from Jack Kruse that there might be some like entrepreneurs who are looking into building computers and cell phones with red screens or red light.
Yeah, and you can get shifts on your computer. Like mine actually has, see how mine's a little more red?
Yeah.
It's because you can get, like on most computers nowadays, and like they have apps on your smartphone, you can get an app and it's like a red light shift, and it's just a computer program that just takes the blue light and it shifts it more to red light. And like I have one on my computer, and it connects to the clock.
Oh, okay.
And it shifts it more red.
Oh, that's cool.
The later the day gets, and you can get the ones on your cell phone too, and your cell phone will get more red.
Yeah.
The later at night it is, along with dimming itself.
And blue light glasses are really, really good. They're super cheap. I just got a pair for $70.
My soul chose it. Can you explain that? Well, you see, your soul chose your body before birth. So you chose your parents and the circumstances from, how you're going to live your life on Earth to learn certain lessons, right? So when we say that your soul chose it, if you're in a sick body, you have whatever ailment, as hard as it is for many people to grasp, you actually chose it. You chose your parents. And you chose to be born into that body at that certain time on planet Earth for whatever reason. Maybe you wanted to learn a certain lesson. Maybe you were born to richer parents that would put you in a good school because you had a scientific mission your soul wanted to do here on Earth. Maybe you have a more spiritual mission here on Earth. Whatever the case may be that your soul chose. The point is that your soul chose your body. That's what we're saying. And Luke, no, I don't stimulate myself. It's just going on all the time. No, it's just consume sugar.
That can also, be just simply as a result of being on the program and eliminating poisons. So.
Yeah. Pushing down, I'd say push down more. The pushing down exercise. I think, are we calling it the pull down exercise now?
I think so, yeah.
I actually like that pull down exercise.
It's a better analogy, I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because to me, it feels like I'm pulling the energy down. That will help control it more. And it could be that you're not doing enough, right? So if you have a high libido, try to channel it. Mm-hmm. Even if for a while it means like lifting weights or something. Mm-hmm. I would still rather you go lift weights than go masturbate watching porn. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would still rather a client do that. I wouldn't, I would try to avoid like sprinting or like really exhaustive sort of cardiovascular sort of exercises. But if you want to go lift weights or go do martial arts or something, especially maybe in the beginning, because it's more important for you in the beginning, because you just can't focus your energy, I would still rather you do that than go waste your sexual fluid. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Lights are really sensitive to me. Any clue? I thought HPP. What is HPPD?
I don't know.
I'm not. I'm not sure what HPPD is, so I can't really comment on it.
A lot of people too. They have, they're very sensitive to light when they are in burnout. So a lot of people can't go out into the sun. Even though you really need to, but your body can get habituated to blue light. So that's a big one. Right.
Let's see. DS asks, where do you get this belief? How does one get in touch with their soul? Some people are more talented than others. There are people that could just communicate with souls if you're more sort of like I would say like a people you call it like a clairvoyant or a psychic or whatever. But you get slowly more in touch with yourself and with your soul on the program. Partially from healing. Big one is doing the pushing down exercise and just becoming more, and in touch with yourself, for sure. Okay, Christian Mueller. How long does it take to eliminate heavy metals if I'm on the program for 1 year and haven't eliminated yet? It depends. It's I haven't looked at your specific hair test, Christian, so it's hard to say what kind of pattern you're in or something like that. Some people don't eliminate heavy metals for a few years. I wouldn't, stress about it or anything like that. I would just concentrate on, are you doing the program well? Are you eating well with the cooked vegetables? Many people overlook the pulling down exercise, or are you overlooking the pulling down exercise? Because it's the most powerful part of the program, so you need to realize that. Yeah. And try not to focus too much on, why am I not eliminating heavy metals? The metals will eliminate when they're ready to be eliminated, and all you can do is the program. But it's hard to say. I haven't looked at your hitter specifically. I was in 4 lows first test. Well, 4 lows is one more extreme burnout pattern, so that would explain why you're not eliminating metals yet. I was in 4 lows my first 2 tests. And then I didn't start eliminating a lot of metals till like 9 months into the program, so that's not far away from 1 year. You only won the program 1 year. My soul became so dark, like this has become more bright. Well, that's good. LMAO in it. I don't really know what I was trying to say.
It's
I lose fluid through wet dreams way too often. This sounds gross, but if you have a wet dream and you wake up with a wet dream, I recommend that you rub the fluid back into yourself.
Yeah.
So you splooged on yourself, okay? Rub it back in.
Yeah,
it sounds gross,
that's true.
But rub it back in because there's a lot of nutrients and energy in the fluid. And a lot of people. So I don't know if you're using the sauna. Sauna can helps a lot of people with the wet dreams for whatever reason.
That's interesting.
Because sometimes there's like buildup of toxins.
Okay.
And then,
yeah. I think Larry talks about women who are copper toxic. It can make them more sexual as well.
For sure.
Yeah. Because of the liver poisoning.
Yeah, but don't get mad. Don't get too mad at yourself, ICU, if you're having wet dreams. Okay, okay, you've been rubbing it. Well, that's good. Yeah. But at the same time, don't get too mad at yourself.
Yeah, if you can't really control it, then.
Even me, I still have wet dreams once in a while. I don't know when the last one. I don't think I've had a wet dream. Probably because I'm married now, so I'm having sex more often than I used to. But I haven't had. I used to have wet dreams. I had wet dreams like 3-4 years into the program. Not very often, but especially if I didn't masturbate, I didn't lose fluid for like a couple weeks, I would usually get, a wet dream. Just try to limit it. Just try to limit any sort of, just visual stimulants from like pornography. Even a lot of TV shows. Most TV shows are sexualizing women.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
They are very true.
Even like I think behind us is Fox News. Fox News definitely sexualizes women.
Yeah.
For sure. They're all wearing mini skirts. They're all wearing low cut shirts where you can see their breasts. Like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so you have to realize most media is sexualizing women, and it's just try to limit it as much as possible. Like most TV shows and things like that. Just try to do it as much as possible. We can show it. Let's see. Okay, what are some of the top ones?
Yeah, what are the...
Okay, Rachel asks, how can we open the central channel governing the conception vessels? I wouldn't say there's really any specific ways. The main ways are like the same ways like you would balance the chakras or increase etheric energy in the body.
Being on the program.
Yeah, mostly I would say like pulling down exercise, first of all. Keeping the body loose. So many people overlook doing the spinal twist daily and getting chiropractic work done. You know, pop your back.
That's a definite. That's one I think I overlooked for a while. It seems like a very subtle. It seems like a super subtle thing. Like, this isn't really going to do anything for me. But once I started doing the spinal twists and the foot rubs every day, you notice a big difference.
Like I do this. I pop my back into place like 5 times a day.
And you can tell Luke's posture in real life is pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, Clark thinks I have good posture.
No homo. No homo.
Yeah. It's taking a lot of work though, but and partially like it's from doing the pulling down exercise. Not only because it straightens out the body itself, but it makes you more aware. Like it makes me more aware. Like I know when I do. It makes me more in my body, so I know when I need to do the spinal twist.
Right.
I can feel it. I can feel it. I'm like, oh, my back's a little out of place, so I'll just pop it real quick. You know, same thing with my neck. Like.
Right. So good.
Yeah.
I try to do that, and I'm like.
Yeah,
I can't.
It's crazy. You should hear when I'm in the shower or the sauna and like loosens it up. My skull will pop right here.
Do you feel it when you're pulling down too?
Like the popping or like
just can you feel your spine like aligning itself?
Yeah, like one thing my body's doing recently is it like see there's still like a little bit too much of a lump here.
Yeah.
So my body will do this.
Oh, that's crazy.
It'll do this when I'm pushing.
When you're pushing down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it. I have like serious imbalances. I think in my right.
You do the same thing. Your head's too far forward.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I can feel it in my right hip, like a little above it, and then my right ankle.
Right.
I feel the inner. I'm like, what is going on?
Right.
And it's just realigning everything.
Right. Yeah. And so the spinal twist is very good. If you want to look how the male body should look, in my opinion, the closest representation posture-wise is Conor McGregor.
Yeah, definitely.
Go watch Conor McGregor how he walks. How he kind of how he fights and how he kind of holds himself.
Aaron Judge has really good posture.
Aaron Judge too.
Really good posture.
What other athletes can I think of? Conor McGregor, Aaron Judge. Any other athletes you can kind of think of?
Not off the top. I think Mike Trout might be pretty well.
Yeah, Mike Trout for sure.
Yeah.
There's some football players.
I think LeBron as well.
Yeah, LeBron James. He's pretty straight.
There's a lot of things about his facial structure that's really very healthy as well.
Right.
A lot of the stuff in Weston Price that he talks about, like a very big jaw for all the teeth and stuff.
Right.
It's like textbook if you look at LeBron's face.
Right. So yeah, don't overlook healing the structure. And then going back to your question, Rachel. Yeah, pulling down exercise, keeping the spine loose and limber, and popping it every day, and then also rubbing the feet and popping the toes. You know, anything to move the energy, which is popping the toes, popping the structure. Doing the pulling down exercise, etc., etc. Okay. Can I do the pulling down exercise while doing something else when I'm busy? I do it while I drive. I don't necessarily recommend that in the beginning because it can be sort of a distraction.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty good at it, and I do it while I drive, and actually it helps my posture while I drive because I drive and I do the pulling down exercise and it makes my posture better and better. Like literally when I'm doing that, like this, my neck will pop just from meditating while I drive.
That's awesome.
Like it'll pop like vertically. It's crazy.
That's crazy. And like one thing about the pulling down exercise as well, I think Larry talks about in his article on it, like starting the engine. So like if you're just starting out, maybe set some time aside and try and focus on pulling the energy down so that you understand how to do it. And then once you understand how to do it, you can do it anywhere. It can be hard though. It is sort of like starting a car that it doesn't want to turn over at first.
Right. I like how you were joking about Fox News, but it's on your TV. I said it was on the background. I said that.
Yeah, I know.
I went back and looked at it, Christian. That's why I was making fun of it, because it was in the background. Okay, DJ says, I can't focus on pushing down for acupuncture to help, but no, I don't do it. Pushing down is difficult for a lot of people. Some people can do it right away. For some people, it's a lot more difficult. When you're starting out, I would say do it while you do a coffee enema. It's easier while you do a coffee enema. Put away your smart. Most people are doing the coffee enema and they're doking on their smartphone. That's what Clark does.
That's what I do. So
put away your smartphone. Sometimes, I will listen to podcasts sometimes, but it's mostly audio and it's on a low setting. Try to eliminate, especially in the beginning. I'm pretty good at it now, so I can have more distractions, I would say, even though I would still be able to do it more powerfully if I eliminated all of it.
Right.
But try to eliminate as much stimulus as possible, and do it while you do a coffee enema, and that will be the easiest way to learn it. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Jeffrey Donovan has incredible posture. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, neither do I.
Are you a practitioner under Lawrence Wilson? Yes, we are both practitioners under Lawrence Wilson. Yes. Okay. If I masturbate a lot, could that be the reason? Yeah.
Definitely.
Masturbate. It all plays a part, and there's a lot of energy in sexual fluid, and you're discharging yourself, right? And so part of eliminating the healing is you're charging yourself, right? You're putting all these nutrients into your body. You're getting plenty of rest. You're in the pulling down exercise itself charges the body.
Right.
It actually, doing the pulling down exercise actually increases your sodium potassium ratio. It charges the body.
Exactly. And that's another good point. There's that indicator on the hair test. If you're really, masturbating a lot, it'll show up as a low sodium potassium ratio.
Yeah, and you'll feel it. Trust me, you'll feel it. If you start going to bed early and you're eating red meat 3 times a week and you don't masturbate for a couple weeks, you'll feel higher testosterone levels for sure. I experienced it myself, 100%. And then you have to try to kind of learn to harness the energy.
Right.
Too many people, they don't know what to do with the energy once they get it. Preferably, be a better worker.
Right.
Focus on your business.
Start a business.
Yeah.
Something productive.
Yeah, something. Right. All right. Well, I think that's about all the questions we had. Thank you guys for the questions. Thank you guys for joining. I hope that you enjoyed this little discussion me and Clark had about his healing journey.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man.
And about the dangers of antidepressants and some of these horrible drugs that doctors put people on, because it sucks.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, don't do drugs, and think about the consequences of some of the medication that your doctor could be putting you on, and do your own research.
Right.
Okay, it's your health, it's your body. You need to, in this day and age, there's so much information there, it can be difficult, but at the same time, you need to put forth the time, because not everyone has your best interest at heart. You have your best interest at heart. You're the last resort for yourself, and you need to do the research and inform yourself before you do permanent damage to your body. A lot of people, they don't recover. Most people aren't as lucky as Clark.
Right.
Most people, they just get sicker and sicker, and they become more dependent on the antidepressants. Right. And then
you just kind of fade away.
You just fade away. Yeah, you fade away, and then you never reach your full potential in life, and it's a somewhat wasted life here on Earth.
Always,
we don't want that for you.
Definitely. Always keep in mind too. You should always have the desire to get well, no matter what is happening.
Right.
That's super duper important. Having that intent. That's one thing I felt like kept me going when I was younger. Before I found nutritional balancing, was you need to have that serious intent that you want to get well, and the serious desire to get well, and things will happen. As a result of that will bring you answers, so.
Right. All right. So keep doing what you're doing, guys.
Hold on, let's take this last one. We're taking the fight. Who you got? Me all day, bro. Me all day.
Yeah. Clark's, I don't know, I haven't met Martin in person, but Clark's a little bit taller than me. He's pretty thick, too. He's got that fast oxidizer muscle. I don't know. True. I don't know. True. I think iron. I think my money's on Clark. Sorry. Yeah, plus America.
That's right.
Yeah, plus America. America, fast oxidizer muscle. I'm taking Clark. All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Peace out.
All right.